Hello, my name is Scam, and if you're watching this, then you live in a simulation, my G. And today, I'm gonna talk about how I became a graffiti artist slash graffiti writer. So today is Scam story time. So where should I start? So the way I was introduced to graffiti, this was before I started writing, obviously. The way I was introduced was my older sister. One day she came home with this drawing or like the sketch. She got like two. She had like two pieces of art. I guess somebody from school. I don't know who it was. I never met them, but this is when I was in seventh grade. She might have been in ninth or 10th grade. And one day she came home and she had these sketches, and I was looking at them, and I was mind blown off the bat. Like, I thought it was so awesome. I thought it was just, the coolest shit ever. It had like little characters on the bottom. It said Houston, and then on the bottom it had little characters with spray cans, baggy pants. And immediately I was intrigued. I'm from the hood. So I'm like, that shit looks badass. And I spent so much time looking at it. Like, she let me look at it for a little bit, and obviously, I gave it back to her. But later on, I wanted to look at it again, and this is without her knowing. So I snuck into where she had her binder or whatever, and I took out both pieces of art, and I was looking at them, and then the one that I was looking at was the Houston one, and I was eating. I think I was eating like chicken nuggets or something, maybe, yeah, like chicken nuggets, and I was like, well, obviously dipping them in ketchup, and some of the ketchup smeared on it. I dropped some of the ketchup on it, and I was like, what the fuck? My sister, she's always had a temper. This is my older sister, so I was scared. Or I was like, fuck, she's gonna go ballistic on me. She's gonna blow up on me. So me, I'm like, what can I do? I'm like, the only thing I could do is like try to remake it. It was a pencil. It was done with pencil. It was a sketch. And I'm like, well, the only thing I can do is try to remake it. So I'm sitting there like for a while trying to remake it, trying to redraw it. And I never knew how to draw. I've always wanted to draw and I never could. Or I always try to draw. But I never try to do letters. So I'm sitting there, other than the South Side S, the 3 lines or the 6 lines, and then everybody knows how to do that. But I'm sitting there trying to recreate it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it probably didn't look anything like it. Well, not that it didn't look anything like it. It didn't look fully like it. I'm not gonna get on the first try. But I'm looking at it, and I'm like, fuck, I can actually kind of do this. Like, mine wasn't that half bad. I'm like, this is pretty decent. So I'm like, huh. I was like, screw this. I don't even care anymore. I just put it back. When she found out, she didn't even care. But by then, I had already copied the sketch onto my own paper. So from these letters that he made, I started getting ideas and making my own letters out of the letters he did. And like, the details he would add to it, I started adding it to my own letters. And from then on, like, I started, like, every day I would do it. I couldn't stop. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't stop. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. But I was like, I knew I was kind of good at it or decent at it. So, and that was the first time I was ever good at anything. I was kind of all right at sports, but there was people that were way better. And graffiti, I didn't know nobody who knew how to do graffiti, and I'm like, finally something that I'm good at. You know, something that not many people can do, and I'm actually good at it. So I kept going, and this is when I was in seventh grade, and this was in a small town outside of Houston, Texas. I'm from Houston, Texas, but for seventh grade, I came to this small town outside of Texas, and like in that small town, nobody did graffiti. Nobody was doing it. And excuse me. And basically, I was just, drawing in my notebook. Sometimes I would go to school, do my name. This was like the first name I had. I've had so many names since, you know, or I had so many names after that or whatever. But I would, go and tag in the restroom and shit. People thought it was cool. People would see my art and they thought it was cool. And this was like the first few months of me doing it, and I'm already getting props for it. So I was like, fuck, I must be doing something right. And sure enough, I ended up moving back to Houston, and that's when it really, when I was like, oh my god, finally. And if you know anything about Houston, it's so like, they embrace the graffiti culture big time. Like, so many people do graffiti, and I learned first before I got there, went back, to Houston. I learned how to do graffiti, so I was like, shit, it's time to play, time to have some real fun, time to get active. And that's exactly what I did. Uh, I go back for 8th grade, back to Houston, and I'm like, damn. But at my middle school, nobody was really doing it at the time. There was maybe one other kid, two other kids that were doing it, but I didn't know them yet. So, and I didn't know they were doing it. So I'm like, man, I want to start my own tagging crew. Yep, I want to start my own tagging crew. And I didn't really like have access to like YouTube at the time or anything. So my sister, she had a boyfriend, not the same guy who did the sketch. She had a boyfriend that she been known way before that, and he was from Houston. And now you move back, her and her dude kind of rekindled, right? So while she was on the phone with him, I knew he was a graffiti writer, so I'll be asking her like all kinds of questions, like what's this and that, and he'll be relaying stories back to me, and I'll just like store everything in my fucking mental Rolodex, and from then it's how I like learned a lot of the rules, a lot of the terminology, shit like that. And I'm like, well, I gotta start my own crew. So I started teaching people how to do graffiti in school. Like I know right now, my channel, I'm still doing it. I'm still teaching people how to do graffiti. You can call me the graffiti guru. But yeah, like so I had to teach a few people how to do it. And some people I found out they were doing it, right? I was recruiting, and I started even letting people who didn't even do graffiti because I needed numbers, so I was like, whatever. It didn't matter if they were toys. I'm like, I need some more people and they could learn. And some of them were actually good. One of my good friends that I rap with now, shout out my boy Rolly. He is cousins of one of the most prolific writers in all of Houston. He's from a famous graffiti crew, BK, INS. I don't know if he's still down with him, but shout out Gear. And I looked up to him. I already knew who he was by that time. And I found out that was his cousin. I was like, bro, of course you can join. And then from then on, I started building up my crew. And, you know, I started bombing. I don't do that no more. I'm a YouTuber. I don't commit no crimes. But yeah, I started bombing, started getting my name out there, and sure enough, started getting recognition. Made my own crew. People started recognizing my crew. People who were older than me started like trying to give me game, trying to hang out with me. We had MySpace at the time. We would connect with MySpace. So this was a while back. I'm old. Yeah, I'm not gonna say exactly how old, but yeah, I started building up my crew, and I couldn't stop doing it. Like I just couldn't stop doing graffiti. It was an everyday thing. It was my first passion, my first true love. Other than rap. Rap came afterwards. But yeah, couldn't stop, man. And that's pretty much where I'm gonna end it, because there's gonna be more story times about my graph life. When I was a youngster. But for now, we're just gonna leave it on. We're gonna leave on that note. peace. And if you're watching this, remember, you live in a simulation, my G. Ha.